What's up, you guys? My name is Wolf, and welcome back to LEGO Arts. So last episode, we did the showcase on Final Fantasy VII Remake, which since then, I made some updates with Aerith, Tifa, and recently Sephiroth, and I'll explain those later on. But for this episode, we are getting around to a showcase that I have been working on for quite some time, a showcase I've really been looking forward to showing you guys, and that is LEGO Avatar: The Last Airbender. So this has been something that I've been working on for quite some time. I think I started this around like the same time I was working on Final Fantasy VII, but I wanted to get 7 done first, and that way I could focus on part 1 of the showcase. This is divided up into 2 parts, and again, I'll explain that later on. So as you can see from our minifigures, we have Aang, Katara, Sokka, Momo, Toph, Zuko, Iroh, and Suki. These guys took quite some time of detailing, sculpting, sanding off, and just a lot of work was put into each of these characters in their own way or form. And except for the face decals, all of this is completely hand painted. I did each of these figures completely handwork. I can't remember which other showcases that I've done besides like more cartoonish kind of minifigures like Cuphead or Bendy. But these guys took quite some time of looking at multiple photo references of their outfits. It's figuring out like which one would be more iconic for them, doing like all the detail work, and overall this took quite a process for each and every one of these. But for the final results, I'm really proud of like how each of these guys came out. So as you guys know the whole drill, we're gonna take these minifigures one at a time to review them, explain my process, why I went with this route, and then go from there. And before I continue on, the face decals that are used for this video, they belong to minifigs.psd. I'll include a link to their Instagram in the description below. Go check them out, because they've done some amazing digital customs. So, without further ado, let's get the pedestal out and get the showcase on the road. Kicking our showcase off is, of course, the main character of the series, Avatar, Aang. And this was actually one of the first characters to get done. So for this character, it was pretty simple to do. Like, most of this, it just explains itself, like, base color yellow, then adding in the orange and the brown of the boots. But explaining this, like, as it went further along, again, the face is the only decal here. However, I did have to change it up a little bit. I wanted the arrows to, like, match up perfectly with, like, coloration-wise, so I just went back and, like, repainted the arrow, and then continued on all the way down to the back of the head, and I also used a little bit of, like, photo references from the original Avatar Aang, like, back in the day, like, back in the early days of LEGO, like, the LEGO sets, they apparently did, like, this special Nickelodeon set line for it. They released two sets, and they were Avatar and SpongeBob. It was sort of an experiment back then to see, like, which one would sell more, and looking back at it, I am angry. The fact that SpongeBob beat Avatar, it's just like, why? Like, why? But I did use, like, some photos of the minifigures to, like, get an idea of it. And I did like that they continued on the arrow, like, down, like, at the back of the head, except they didn't fully completed it, so I went back and, like, redid it all the way down, to the neck, and you can see that, like, I continued the arrow tattoo on the side of the hands, because that's, like, a very characteristic detail for Aang. I didn't really do some customization on the staff, because I kept getting stuck on the staff, so I just gave him, like, the simple, like, Lego base staff, which does work pretty well. Like, if you position this up, this does represent, like, Aang's staff overall. So, okay, let's go ahead and move that aside for now. So you can see, like, he's got some articulation in the hands, as well as, he's got some articulation in the feet. I used the same process I usually do for, like, I sanded the joints of the legs, and I did a little sanding underneath the waist, not too much though, but I do now have a new tool, that will better help that, so I'm going to use that tool for the future on customs, and for, like, the 3D elements, like, the orange, like, outer vest that he has on, here, I really wanted to make it, like, unique, because most of the Avatar minifigures I saw just had, like, this part, like, painted on, and that works, but I wanted to go the extra mile and really make it 3D three-dimensional. So I took some fabric, glued it onto the back onto the back, then measured it around and around, glued it onto the front. I left a little bit of here for like the yellow collar, for the yellow collar he has on here, and then gave this multiple layers of orange paint. Like the orange paint that I used took a lot of time, but I finally managed to get like the correct amount for it, so that way it blends in all very nicely. And then I added the same orange onto his arms, and then like this sash going around on the torso, and then went back, did some detailing on the boots. On the boots, gave like a light brown on the base of the boots, and then went back with a dark brown for the outlines of the boots. So overall, that's very basic with Aang. With Aang, like not a lot to go on here. I did consider the idea of maybe giving him a second head of showing him like in the Avatar state, but I decided to cancel that idea because I would also have to like give him new hands, and I didn't want to deal with that. And I did thought about like maybe making his glider better, but again, I was stuck on how I would build it because the arms can't move in that direction. And I also thought about like maybe on doing like maybe taking like one of those bat minifigures. There's like man bat minifigures setting off the wings, but that would take a lot more. That would take a lot of time, and I really wanted to move on to the rest of the characters because I didn't want to get stuck on one character the entire time. But overall on how Aang looks, I really think this turned out very cool, and I'm pretty satisfied with how Aang looks like in this custom Lego minifigure format. It looks amazing. Next up on our list is, of course, the Southern Water Tribe girl, Master Katara. So for this character, I actually was working on her and Sokka at the same time, so I can get like, so both of them can have the same skin tone, because there have been moments in the past where I wanted to get the characters to look the same, but I worked on one of them, and then when I tried to replicate the colors that I used, it came out incorrectly, so I didn't want to repeat events like that, so I just started on both of them at the same time, and then once that was out of the way, I focused on the rest of the characters. So for Katara's outfit, it's pretty basic. It's again self-explanatory. Like she's got her necklace. She's got her necklace. The detailing on the torso is pretty simple. Like I based it out in like this sky blue color, and then outlined with the robes on this weight, and continued on down here. You can see of like where the fabric meets up down here, but it doesn't bother me too much. I cut off the sides of like her kimono, like on both sides, and there's some articulation in the legs. And what I actually did was, since I knew that the fabric was going to cover up a majority of the legs, I just focused on doing like the sides of the legs and underneath like the knees and the feet. I only focused on those, so that way that like when I do articulation, the paintwork underneath isn't like getting like chipped off and everything, as it's happened in the past, and I'm still working on that. But now this looks, it moves like much more seamless. She can have articulation in her hands, and overall this just works out so much better. I really like it how it worked out, and there's some detailing on the back. And her hair. The hair was actually something I was debating of how to proceed through that. Like when looking at her hair, I was torn between of doing like the hair she had in books 1 and 2, or doing like book 3. But the more I thought about it, I decided that like I want to do let's do like books 1 and 2, because it's more iconic. And I forgot to mention that with Aang. Like I actually thought about maybe doing like his season 3 outfits, but then I thought that like, nah, he's more iconic in his books 1 and 2 outfits. So let's leave it at that. And same thing with Katara. I sculpted the whole thing out of clay, and then like bringing back the braid It was definitely much easier to do than Weiss's from Ruby Volume 7. So I sculpted that, and then like this button at the back, and then carefully sculpted out like her hair loopies, and connected them like from the top of her forehead, and then connecting them all the way down to the back of this little button here, and then painted it up in like a dark brown, and it just turned out very, very good. They're very good. The one thing I didn't do was like adding in like her water, adding in like her pouch where she keeps like her water in, and so she can do the bending, and it was mostly because I didn't know how to do that, Sit. Yeah, I didn't know like whether or not to put it on the sides or maybe on the back. It was just like one of those, like minor details that like, this is gonna be a bit tricky to do. Thinking to do and do. So I just focused on the rest of the character, and overall, I think this came out pretty good. Came out pretty good. Like either hairstyles could have worked out pretty well, but I really like of how this came out. And Katara as a character definitely grew, grew throughout the season, throughout the series. Like she started off as like a beginner, and then by the end of it, she was a full-on waterbending master. And even though she claims that she's not, she doesn't act like a mom, let's face the facts, she's very much the mom of the group. But overall, with this character, I really like how Katara came out. And let's go ahead and move on to our next character. Next up on our list is Boomerang Guy, and guy slash ponytail guy slash meat and sarcasm guy, Sokka. So this character, again, I was working on the same time with Katara, and it was actually not just the skin tone, but also their outfit colors, because I did see that their Water Tribe clothing is roughly the same, so I decided to work on them at around the same time, so that way I wouldn't have to, like, come up with new with, like, a new coloration for both of them, and it actually turned out pretty well, for the base coloring. So I also went back and did, like, the sash, and did, like, this brown sash, and sash that continues on to the back. This was supposed to represent of like the holster that he keeps, either his boomerang or his sword, and I'll explain those as I go on. And the white detailing also continues on to the back, He's got like his little necklace here, and with his hairpiece, I was actually debating of how to proceed through that, and I had almost thought about the idea of giving him like the full hair as he does have in book 3, but decided to do the mohawk slash ponytail, because I thought that was more iconic with it. So I just focused on the top for the sculpting. Then you could see like these little snippets on the back represent like the pieces of hair, and I went back and did like this grayish brownish color for like the shaved sides of the mohawk. And the arms are pretty self-explanatory, like just base coloring, and then adding and like these bracelets on both of the sides, or maybe they're wrappings. And then with his boots, base brown color boots, like this, and then this light brown outline on him. I think it was the same color that I used for Oko from Ruby. I did a navy blue for like his legs underneath, and painted up the bottom of his robes, down there, and of course he's got his weapons. So I couldn't do Sokka without, like, the boomerang. The boomerang is, like, an iconic piece for Sokka. I can't really remove the boomerang, so I pretty much just, like, took a rod, sculpted the clay around it, and then tried to sculpt and carve, like, the whole boomerang, and the whole boomerang out. And I also did, like, some detailing on the hands to represent, like, he's got some interesting gloves. Like, half of the hand is blank, and then the other half is fingerless. That was tricky to do, but once I managed to figure that out, the rest of it was pretty straightforward. And of course, he's got his iconic space sword. I know this has another name, but I forgot what it was. But for this sword was definitely a piece that I wanted to make for Sokka. And actually, how I did this was I took like these 2 spare gladiator swords. That I had. I sanded off one of the handles, and then on the other one, I sanded off the end of it, and then combined the blades together, glued them, and then painted up for the meteorite sword. And it actually looks pretty good. And it worked out so well. Oh, well, hang on. Let me get him out of here. It worked out so well. I actually did the same thing with Sephiroth. So if we bring Sephiroth out here, I redid Sephiroth's sword, and I took like 2 katana blades and a blade, sanded off one of the handles, sanded off the other end, and glued them, repainted them together, and now this looks much more epic for Sephiroth. I really love how this came out. And anyways, back with Sokka, with the rest of the figures pretty self-explanatory. I'm sorry, like I repainted the handle and repainted the handle as well as the guard. And overall, this came out pretty good. Good. Sokka was definitely pretty much the slapstick character of the group. He definitely had his moments where he showed off as being a leader and also just straight up being a goofball. And I really love of like how his character progressed throughout the series. And overall, this was pretty fun to do. And I really like it how it came out. So, the only other things I would have done for this character was I thought about maybe making him a sheath at the back, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized that like I'm not really gonna be using it. He's gonna be holding on to these weapons pretty much forever. So it's just like, nah, let's just go ahead and just leave the character as it is and move on. But overall, I really love how this turned out. Next up on our list is the runaway / blind bandit / best earthbender in the whole Avatar universe, Toph Beifong. So this character, I actually had to change up slightly of how I did this one. So my original thought process was maybe doing like the movable like short legs that Aang number five, and Atreus all had. But then I realized that like I only had 2 spares left, and one of them I already used for 5s in the Umbrella Academy showcase. So I realized that like I'm gonna have to use some regular short legs. But thinking about this again, it actually matches up because Toph is pretty much the shortest of the group. So I kind of wanted that like height difference throughout them, and I managed to paint it up and match it up very well of the designs of the character overall. And this came out pretty good. So you can see like she's got some articulation in her hands. If her feet can move, I would definitely make sure there was some articulation there, but that's all right. I did, however, did some detailing on the feet. Like you can kind of see of like this dark green, yellow, or green outline over here. I did like the yellow first, then went back and did the green. But then when I realized that like the green overlaps the yellow, so I went back and refixed the yellow. I double checked a few times if there was any detailing on the back, and there wasn't really much. And of course, like there's like you could see like her wrap, and she's got like the bracelet wrappings like on her hands and the green shoulders. Shoulders are painted on here. The detailing on the front was pretty simple, like just doing the base is like light tan that I got recently, and I'm thinking about using for an Obi-Wan custom in the future. I also did some like detailing for like the robes, and then like this little green dot over here represents her robes underneath. And of course she's got like her sash that wraps around. I did the little metal pieces on the pieces over here with the yellow marker. I made sure that all this detailing would match up pretty well and with the feet. As you can see, it's not clean, but it does match up very nicely here. And then like on the back of like her hairpiece, completely sculpted, and I actually had to double check it. Like at first, it was just like the back of her head was showing underneath, and then like this bun part over here was more round on the top. But then when I double checked that, I realized that like, oh no, the whole thing needs to be sculpted together. I have to use the two together. So when I got that out of the way, it worked out pretty well. I also like went back on the front, and like you can see, like I sculpted out the strands of hair and the hair that she has on her forehead, right? And also sculpted out like her headband, which I actually had to change a few times. I accidentally, like when I first did this, you can't really see it anymore, but when I first did this, the headband was more pointy. I realized my mistake. I went back, removed that, and fixed it up pretty well. And then like the buns on the sides of them, I sculpted them out separately and painted them after basing black, or maybe I did it for where I first based is white and then went back for the black hair. I can't exactly remember how I did it, but I remember I had to do them separately, so that way if there were any mistakes, I could go back and fix it all again. And overall, this turned out pretty well. And Toph is definitely one of my favorite characters of all time because she's very unique. and unique. Like her skills is very well incredible of how like she can feel the vibrations throughout the earth, so knowing her areas around, and of how people like always treated her in her like delicately, like as if she was made of glass and would have easily broken. But throughout the series, she always proved them wrong and just demonstrated of how like powerful she truly is. And I just really love of like her sassy moments that she has throughout the show, and of how she always takes advantage of the fact that she's blind and makes jokes with everybody that like, oh look, I see that. And that's what all of you will say when you actually see it. So overall, this really was incredible of like her progression throughout the show, and aside from the legs, like the lack of movable legs, I think this character turned out pretty well, and I really like overall of how this came out. Next up on our list is the character that's gone through the most development throughout the show, starting off as a villain, then turning into a good guy, and overall just being one of the best characters throughout the entire series. Fire Lord Zuko. So this character, I can say, was probably one of the hardest ones to do. Like this one and the next one were definitely a challenge to do, because of doing like base coloring, sanding, detailing, adding in these fabrics, and overall was quite a challenge to attempt for Zuko's design, but in the end was worth it. So for doing Zuko's design, like as you can see, like of course he's got his iconic. Oh dear, I can't seem to remove the hairpiece, and that kind of sucks because as underneath, I did actually do some more detailing on the scar underneath, but I unfortunately can't show it. But I guess that's fine. His hairpiece, I've seen a few other like who Zuko's used this kind of hairstyle, and I wanted to use it for this one. So, but I did have an extra one, so I had to like order a new one. And when it finally came in, the whole figure together just looks incredible. I really love it. And actually, like you could kind of see on, actually don't know how well you guys can see it, but for his eyes came out a bit faded. It did. So if you guys recall of how I kept mentioning of how like the Avatar minifigures have how if I can't resalvage the decals, I'll reprint some new ones. What I meant by that was that I don't know why this happened, but when I printed them off, for some reason the eyes and occasionally the eyebrows would come out so faded. How faded the eye color would be like mistaken for gray. Alright? And for Aang that would have been fine, but for the rest of the characters, it was just like, no, this won't do at all. So I tried to refix them, like recolor them with like with black color pencil, and it didn't come out perfect, but it does recover at least some of the color. But Zuko's, it was especially hard, especially for like his scarred eye. So I tried to like fix it as best I could. I then also like went back and painted his scar, like for the smaller part near his eye, I repainted it in like a dark red, and then the rest of it I did like this pale pinkish kind of coloration for him. And again, there's more detailing underneath, but since I can't remove the hair, we'll just leave it as it is. Anyways, for the rest of the figures, pretty self-explanatory. Underneath, I did the base crimson, and the same thing on the same thing with his sleeves. Same thing also with the legs. And I did actually detail like for where he can have articulation there, but we can't really see the legs. I also did like this brick red, for like his boots, and also did like the detailing on said boots. And the fabric actually was something that I actually had to redo a couple of times. Like the first like attempt at doing like this outer robe, it came out looking more like a trench coat, so I had to scrap it. But I did keep it for a future figure. I did like a series of cutting off like the holes of where the arm would connect to the torso. Also, I did redo those a couple of times, but finally came out in a way for where the arms could attach on perfectly without problems, and also like articulation here, and then like I did the same brick red, for the outer, for like the whole robe coloration, and then on the back I did like this yellowish goldish kind of coloration, like the interesting old yellow that I used for the background bendy sets. I mixed it in with some yellow yellow, and then did like all this outlining, like down here on the robes, and then continued that outlining all the way on the back. On the back, this one slash out here, I glued it on, not before like measuring out of where exactly it would go. I didn't complete on the full like design pattern because since the arms would be moving back and forth around here, I didn't want them to like get caught here because that would require a lot of sanding, probably enough to the point for where the arm would easily just easily break apart, and I didn't want to risk it, especially for this kind of showcase. But overall, through like some trial and error, with the final results, I really love of how this character came out. And Zuko overall, looking back, was pretty much like the best, like easily one of the best characters out of the whole series, because he went through so much development, from starting out as this prince, and wanting to hunt the Avatar and restore his honor, or so we can gain his father's love. There's like love and pretty much respect, to then later on developing into his own character, forging his own path, and becoming like the new Fire Lord. And I just loved overall like how his development went throughout the show, and the customization for this character I think is one of my best, and I really love of how this character came out. So speaking of best characters, let's go on to overall the best character ever created. Next up on our list is the Dragon of the West, and leader of the White Lotus, and pretty much the wisest man ever created, General Iroh. So definitely, when doing this showcase, for doing Team Avatar, I definitely had to include Iroh onto the list, because he is just one of the best characters throughout the show. Always like giving off like great wisdom, whether it's to like Zuko, or to Aang, or to pretty much just anybody he meets. Like, you have a conversation with this man, and it's like, wow, my whole life has suddenly changed, and now I feel better. Like, definitely the Tales of Ba Sing Se was definitely one of the best episodes, showcasing of Iroh, just going around and helping people. And overall, this character was definitely one of my favorites. And I just had to do a minifigure for this guy. Alright, though, as you can see, he's in his White Lotus outfit. And that is because, why I chose this outfit in particular was because I felt that, like, this one represents Iroh the best. Like, yes, like, definitely his Fire Nation outfit is like more iconic, and also like his Earth Kingdom's outfits were definitely more memorable. But I felt like the White Lotus represents Iroh the most of all, because it definitely shows of how he started off as just a general serving the Fire Nation, and like later on, as he progressed, the White Lotus just shows his true self of just like being at peace, giving off like this great wisdom to everybody he meets. And also, I had rarely seen like some stuff like cosplay or character designs of Iroh in his White Lotus outfit. So I wanted to take the step and attempt to recreate his outfit in minifigure format. It was not easy, but in the end, I really love of how this turned out. So looking at of how this figure did, I first did like the base coloring of like this navy blue on like the legs and the torso. As you can see, like there's some articulation in the hands, which I wasn't fully anticipating, but I'm glad said there is some, and there is actually some articulation in the feet. Excuse me, like how we did with Katara, the front of like where the knees are, I just left those blank because as I knew that the robes would cover up the rest of the character, and I actually did this in multiple parts. Like I first did like this underneath, like this grayish whitish color underneath down first. Then on the back, I did the same thing over here, and then also added in like this the blue armor pieces out of fabric, and outlined them in white. Alright, it was not an easy process to do, especially with the side ones. But so when I managed to get an idea of what I wanted to do, this turned out very, very well. And it actually with like the robes on top of the rest of the torso, or so underneath you could see that like I did it in fabric, and I was originally gonna do a fabric like outer line over here, but no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't get the fabric to like bend in the position I wanted. So I decided to like, you know what, screw it. Let's just do clay, and clay. We'll sculpt it around, make it easily attachable, and this turned out well. And I don't know how well you can see it, but I did like this in like the grayish whitish color like as the base, and then like the detailing for the Lotus, and it's like all around that piece, and it continues on all the way to the back, way down to the back. I did have to look at some multiple photo references of the outfits, especially the back, because the ones I kept seeing were on the front. So I actually had to rewatch like Sozin's comments, comment. Why can I not say it? You know which episode I'm talking about, but I had to relook at the scenes on the back and get an idea of what the outfit looks like. And then once I figured that out, it was the rest of the process was pretty straightforward. And doing his hairpiece, I sculpted out like the top part of like his bald head, and on top, I probably should have sanded off that stud piece underneath, but I didn't do it at the time. I will in the future, because it'll definitely make it easier. And then the rest of this, I actually just left it as it was. I just sculpted on like his overall hairstyle, including like his little bun at the top, and just left it like the standard gray color this comes in. I did, however, like paint it on the wrapping that he has on the top, and then sculpting out like the rest of the beard was kind of tricky, especially like this little like short beard part here. This actually fell off like when I was taking pictures of the thumbnail for this, right after I went to put this guy all set up and ready for the showcase, the beard fell off. So if you're wondering like if the thumbnail looks a little bit different from the figure, that's why. And I couldn't even find the beard near it. It just straight up ghost. So I had to resculpt it. I'll have to put it back on. But it's definitely much better now. It's definitely much better. And overall, again, I just really love this character, and he's one of the best ever created definitely his character definitely started to develop after like his son, Lutang. But after his son died, instead of like devolving into like going into like this vengeful path, it actually like opened his eyes, and he became like more wiser, more insightful, and pretty much just like I know I'm a broken record at this point, but just one of the best characters ever created. So I knew that when starting on doing the showcase, I could not do Avatar without having Iroh in, because just with this character is definitely one of the best of the whole series. Next up on our list is Suki in her Kiyoshi Warrior outfit. And straight off the bat, if you're wondering like why does she have a sword and shield instead of the fans, I'll explain that later on. But I wanted to show like, as you can see, like she's got like the fan detailing over here and here, but I wanted to do alternate weapons, and that will be explained later on. But anyways, the rest of the character, I did like the base green coloring for like her torso, as well as for like her fabric skirt. Like you can see like where it ends and where it ends here, but I blended it well with the rest of the paintwork over here. I then made like my own like dark gray coloration. Like I ran out of dark gray paint, but I had plenty of like black and white paint, so I fused the two together multiple times to get like this dark grayish coloration, and this turned out very well for like her armor over here. As you can see, like the face decal, I tried to like paint it up white to try to blend it well. Unfortunately, the makeup did get messed up a little bit through the printing process. So that explains like why like the outline looks a bit funky. That was why I'm not super happy with it. But it's such a small thing now that I don't want to accidentally like mess this whole character up. But anyways, with the rest of the hair, with the rest of our hair design, it was sculpted. The hair was sculpted on. Hang on. Let me get rid of like some of the. Okay, there we go. we go. Like the hair is sculpted on. I then sculpted on like her headpiece. And her headpiece. I will admit that the main in front of it does look a little bit big. I unfortunately couldn't cut it and couldn't like find good cardboard to cut it out. I wanted to do the cardboard because it would have been easier. If I tried to sculpt it, it would have come out worse. So I had to work around that. So I did like some small strands of spare fabric I had for like the string pieces and pieces that I have on here, and then I painted on like the wrappings around the hair and outline of like where the knot is. And for like when the detailing to do on like the armor, it was a bit tricky of like keeping it consistent throughout it, and then adding in like this dark green or green sash that actually does paint around the rest around the torso. So I decided to do that because since it's not 3D elements, it would have been easy. And with the feet, actually is just the only thing that I really painted on with the feet is just the boots. Everything else is just completely blank underneath. I went with that because I knew that the whole torso would have been fused together. So I saved myself a lot of work, a lot of meaningless work of trying to add detailing underneath when it would never be shown to the light of day. Yeah, like you can see on her hands, and she's got like the armor detailing on like the sides, including it on her hands, and the same thing with the shield. Which if we can remove it, I'll show you guys. Like you can see, like the detailing does continue over here and here. Now onto the shield and the sword. The sword is very simple. I just took like a simple, like silver katana blade I had, and then with the shield, was not my original idea. No idea what to do. I was at first going to go with like a Captain America shield and repaint it to match the Earth Kingdom symbol, but I realized that like I no longer have any more spare Captain America shield, so I have to go get some more. So I substituted it with like this, like the shield, with like the shield piece that's like one of my Laval minifigures from Legends of Chima had. I just I just removed the stud, super glued the handle in together, then painted it like the base, like gold, like King's gold, went back with a lighter gold, for the outlines, and then drew on the Earth Kingdom symbol. It's not my original idea. Like this would look so much better with like the Captain America shield. Hang on, get back on. Okay, that's good enough. It's not my original idea of how this would have looked. But it is a good substitute. Like if you're out of better options, this is a good idea to work with the parts you do have, and it does represent like sort of the rest of the artillery that the Kiyoshi Warriors have. And this is definitely, I think, like Suki's most memorable outfit. She does also mostly wear like the Fire Nation clothes, but definitely the Kiyoshi Warrior does represent her overall. And throughout like the minor changes that I would have made, this definitely had more detailing work than the other ones. But I do like how it did turn out, and this was a pretty fun character to do. And to our last character in the showcase, Momo. So this was actually the last character I did. I kept pushing this off, not because I didn't want to do Momo, but because like when I first started doing the showcase, my main priority was focusing on the minifigures, and funny enough, as I was working on Suki, I realized that like I'm forgetting about Momo. I should probably work on this. So the whole figure is sculpted out. I sculpted this out on like a stud piece. I first sculpted out like the body, and then did the head, and then added in like his little legs, and then like you can see I did the arms, and then added in like his ears, and of course on the back he's got his tail. One of the reasons that I did this was not the original plan. Originally I was gonna get like one of those like Momo figures that they did for one of the sets back then. I can't remember if it was the ship, or maybe it was the temple, but I wanted to see about like getting one of those figures. But the problem is that it's such a rare piece that it's very hard to find, And not only that, the ones that I did find were expensive. And I didn't want to waste money on buying in like this one small piece. So I decided to like, you know what? Let's just sculpt this out and do this sort of in our own way. Because the original plan was get that piece and then like repaint the entirety of the figure. But I do like this route. More. Like you can see that I did the detailing on the ears. I first did like this light brown as the base, and then went back for the dark brown, brown inside of the ears, and then continued on with that same coloration for the dark brown around for Momo. I did have to look at a few. Like angles at him, a couple of times, especially on the back, But once I figured out like the overall design of it, it was pretty straightforward. I probably could have like had the tail like more out on its own, but since this is such a skinny piece, I didn't want to like sculpt it out and make it more breakable. So I just fused it on to his backside, but it does still like keep up with the idea of like Momo's design. And then like the eyes, I didn't fully get to complete them. And I'm like, if we move the lights, you can see like where I did his mouth. But the problem with the eyes is that since I was working with marker, I barely managed to do like these irises and then like the pupils in the first time, like just one small dot, and that was it. I would have added in like the little white dots that he has on here, but they're so small, and with the markers, sometimes just doing a simple dots, they'll come out so big, they'll completely overlap the rest of it, and I didn't want to risk it for such a small design for this character. But it does match up with Momo overall, like Momo's design overall. And even though this wasn't my original idea, I do like how like this Momo came out. And I would have done an Appa for you guys, but the problem is I have no idea how I would build Appa. Unfortunately, I never got to figure out like how I would build the character, and I don't even think I have enough parts to do it like in the way that I would want to make him. But I did see like some like ideas that if Lego actually proceeds through it, there might be a Lego Ideas Avatar: The Last Airbender sets that does have Appa. It's not a guaranteed, but I do hope that does become a reality in the future. If it does, I'm definitely buying one of those sets. But overall with this character, even though I kept pushing him off, the final results I do like of how the sculpted Momo came out. Well, overall, that does it for this episode of LEGO Arts. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This was definitely a fun showcase to do. Like, it wasn't as quite a big of a challenge as like Final Fantasy VII or Ruby Volume 7, but it definitely had some of its challenges to do. Like, each of these characters having like their own design, their own challenges of sculpting out like their accessories, doing their outfits. But throughout all the trial and error I went through, I really love the final like showcase of how each of these characters looked, and I really love. And overall, with Avatar: The Last Airbender is just one of the best shows of all time, and I kept pushing off like the idea of to do Avatar Showcase, like the idea didn't fully come to mind, but now I'm glad that I didn't do it earlier, because I probably wouldn't have used the skills that I've learned over time, and just looking at these characters now, I think these came out definitely in like my own creative art style of how to do like new customs. But I definitely love of how each of these characters looked, and overall, this was just a very fun build to do. So, for part 2 on the Avatar Showcase, so I'm actually going to do like previous avatars of how to do that. Officially confirmed that I'm going to do like Avatar Roku, Avatar Kiyoshi, and Avatar Yang Shin. Those 3 are officially confirmed. And actually tying back into Suki on why I didn't do the fans was because I want to do the same thing that I did with Blake, and with my 2 versions of Blake, on how with one version of her has like the gun and her sheath becomes a blade, and then with the other version does include like her gunblade design. That's what I want to do for Kiyoshi. Of how like Suki as the Kiyoshi Warriors have the alternate weapons of like the sword and shield. For Kiyoshi, she's definitely going to have the fans. I don't know when Windows are going to get. Windows will be done because I haven't gotten started on them yet. But Windows. But when I do get But when I finish with them, I'll definitely be having like the uniqueness with like some of the skills that I've learned from just doing these characters will definitely transition over to part 2. However, there's going to be like 4 avatars with them. But for the Water Tribe avatar, I actually wanted to ask your guys' opinion on it. And that is, should I continue on with my original idea on doing Avatar Kuruk, or would you guys prefer to see a more iconic character like Avatar Korra? Or please let me know in the comment section below on which one you want to see the most, and by the end of it, I'll get an overall idea of how to proceed through part 2. I don't know when that's coming out, but I promise you guys that once it's finished, we'll record a showcase for you guys, and upload it to the channel. And if you want to see like some of my other showcases, like Final Fantasy VII, Kingdom Hearts, Detroit Become Human, God of War, Devil May Cry, Ruby Volume 7, and all the other crazy projects that I've done, you can check them all out in my LEGO Arts playlist. And yeah, we're gonna call it good. So, if you guys would like to see more videos like this in the future, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notifications. It really helps us. We can list ways, like products, or man, they have some fun. So, anywho, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, hit that like button, comment below what you think, share your friends, subscribe to YouTube, follow me on Twitch. And here's a hop of the road. Woo! Thank you guys, so we'll see you next time. What do you guys, Moonrises?